You know, when you think Minneapolis landmarks, maybe the Stone Arch Bridge, Mill City Museum, they often come up first.
Right. Standard answers.
Yeah, exactly. But for today's deep dive, we're focusing on a spot with this incredible draw, Minnehaha Falls Regional Park. It just pulls people in.
Absolutely. It's amazing how central it is to the city's whole identity. You look at the numbers, like over 850,000 visitors every year. That tells you something.
It really does. It's clearly way more than just a pretty view. And the name itself, Minnehaha Falls, that amazing 53-foot waterfall, it's straight from the Dakota language, right?
That's right. Mo for water, haha, for a waterfall.
Yeah.
It's such a direct connection to the original people of this land.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So for this deep dive, what we want to do is give everyone, a solid overview, kind of the essentials.
The history, the main features, some cool facts maybe.
Exactly. Think of it as the quick guide to really getting Minnehaha Park, your shortcut to knowing what makes it big.
Okay, love that. And I heard a pretty neat fact to kick us off. Minnehaha Park is sort of a park inside another park?
That's it. It sits within the Mississippi National River and Recreation Area, which is, believe it or not, the only national park that's just about the Mississippi River.
Wow. Okay.
And it's also a key piece of the Grand Rounds Scenic Byway system.
Which is that big network of parks and trails all linked together.
Precisely. One of the longest continuous urban parkways in the whole country. It's this grand vision of connected green space.
Okay, so let's dig into that history. The park itself officially dates back to 1889.
1889 is the founding date, yeah. But the story, the human story of that land goes back thousands of years.
With the Dakota people.
Absolutely. This was their home for millennia. It's so important to remember, the falls weren't just scenic. They had deep cultural, spiritual meaning.
And there's that mask of Yoichi Duda overlooking the falls now, Little Crow.
Right, since 1992, a powerful reminder of that deep connection.
Now, the name Minnehaha, I always pictured, laughing water. It sounds so poetic.
It does, and that's the translation most people know. It's very common. But technically, it's more like curling water or even just waterfall.
Ah, okay. Less romantic maybe, but more direct.
Kind of. And the Dakota actually called the creek something else entirely. Wakba Sistina.
Which means?
Little river. It just shows how names hold layers of meaning,
Fascinating. So then European influence starts coming in. Fort Snelling established around 1805. That must have changed things.
Oh, massively. And for a while in those early settlement days, the falls were sometimes called Brown's Falls.
Any idea who Brown was?
There's some thought it might have been Major General Jacob Brown, but, the Dakota name Minnehaha, it just had staying power. It stuck.
Which says something in itself.
It really does.
Then comes this sort of unexpected boost from literature, Longfellow's Song of Hiawatha in 1855.
Yeah, this is wild. The poem makes the falls world famous.
But he never actually saw them.
Never set foot there. He was inspired by writings he read, descriptions, even a daguerreotype, an early photo.
That's incredible. A poem by someone who hadn't been there shapes the whole image of the place.
It's a testament to the power of story, isn't it? His poem, with the characters Hiawatha and Minnehaha, it just captured imaginations globally. Put the falls on the map for so many people.
And just to be clear, he named the character after the falls, right? Not the other way around.
Oh, definitely. The falls had the name first. He buried it for his character.
Right. And this fame coincided with steamboats, making the Mississippi more accessible, leading to tourism.
Exactly. Steamboats could get up to St. Paul, and suddenly this whole area opens up. Minnehaha Falls becomes a must-do stop on the fashionable tour.
The fashionable tour sounds very grand.
It was. People traveled to see the sights, artists came, photographers. They all wanted to capture the falls. The grand tour out of St. Paul always included Minnehaha. It cemented its status.
Okay, so it's getting popular. Thankfully, someone was thinking about preservation, right? Horace Cleveland.
Yes, Horace W.S. Cleveland. His landscape design work in 1883 was absolutely pivotal. He saw Minnehaha Park as part of that bigger picture, the Grand Rounds.
That linked system again.
Yeah. His whole approach was about preserving the natural beauty, working with the landscape, not forcing something onto it. We really owe the whole connected park system we have today to his vision.
So the city, the Minneapolis Park Board, they officially buy the land in 1889. That feels like a big step. One of the first state parks, even if the city managed it.
It was huge. A real commitment to public green space. And they got to work pretty quickly, adding things like, picnic tables, benches, restrooms, the basics.
They're making it usable for people.
Right. And by 1893, there was a pavilion, some rustic bridges, trying to keep it in character with the natural setting. Then later, 1905, they added a refectory for food and gathering.
And it wasn't just a summer spot. I read something about winter sports.
Yeah, in 1926, it was actually designated a winter sports center. They even drew up plans for a ski jump, had toboggans for rent. Picture that.
Wow. Totally different vibe in winter.
Totally. Then, fast forward to the Depression era, the 1930s and early 40s. The WPA, the Works Progress Administration.
Right, the New Deal program.
They did major work there, building retaining walls, more permanent bridges, really important infrastructure work that helped preserve the park long term.
Okay, then jumping ahead again. 1964, a presidential visit. LBJ and Hubert Humphrey. But the falls weren't quite cooperating.
Slight chuckle. Yeah, that's a fun story. There was a bad drought that year.
Show low water flow.
Very low. So to make sure the falls looked suitably impressive for the photos, they actually opened up fire hydrants upstream.
No way. They gave the falls a boost.
A little bit of hydraulic assistance, you could say, just for the cameras.
That's fantastic. And later there was a fight over a freeway, trying to protect the park.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal. A plan for an elevated freeway right near the park. It caused a huge public outcry.
People didn't want it spoiling the area.
Understandably. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. In the end, they compromised. Rerouted the highway into a tunnel underneath, with a land bridge built over the top.
So the park's connection and views were preserved.
Exactly. A real win for community preservation efforts.
Good to hear. And the park kept evolving, right? More recent updates in the 90s and 2000s.
Definitely. That's when we got the pergola garden.
Yeah.
Super popular for photos. And they turned an old parking lot into the Song of Hiawatha Garden. The Longfellow verses inscribed. Nice touch.
Yeah.
Plus a new river overlook, a playground designed to be accessible for all kids, and just general restoration work on the historic buildings and the creek banks around 2011. Ongoing care.
Speaking of historic buildings.
Yeah.
There are some real gems in the park, aren't there? Like the Minnehaha Depot.
Oh, the Princess Depot. Yeah, it's lovely. Victorian era, built around 1875.
The working train station.
Absolutely. Apparently saw a ton of traffic, especially during the World Wars because Fort Snelling is so close. Now it's beautifully restored. A little window into that travel history.
And the Longfellow house. But it wasn't his house.
Correct. Built in 1907, designed to look like his place in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But he never lived there.
So whose was it?
A local guy, Robert F. Jones. Later was a library branch for a while. They moved it within the park in '94. Now it's an information center, and I think it houses a botanical art school too. Still serving the community.
And then the big one, maybe, the John H. Stevens house, the birthplace of Minneapolis.
That's the one. Built way back, 1849 or 1850, near St. Anthony Falls. It was literally the first wood frame house built west of the Mississippi.
Wow, the first one.
Incredible piece of history. And how it got to Minnehaha Park is amazing, too. Moved in 1896 with help from supposedly 10,000 school children pulling ropes.
10,000? Seriously?
That's the story. And yeah, key decisions about founding Minneapolis and Hennepin County happened inside that house. Sadly, there was an arson attack in 2022.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but they're working on renovating it carefully, preserving that history.
What a story. Okay, now for something maybe people don't know, the park used to have a zoo.
Apples. Yes. That's a bit of a curveball, isn't it? Late 1800s, they had bears, birds, sea lions.
Sea lions,
even an alligator. And apparently, for a while, the zoo drew bigger crowds than the waterfall itself.
Get out! More popular than the falls.
That's what they say. But then in 1906, a new park superintendent wasn't keen on the zoo idea. Most animals were given to this guy, Robert Fish Jones.
Fish Jones?
Yeah. He started his own private zoo, the Longfellow Zoological Gardens, right next door to the park. Had his own replica Longfellow house, too.
This gets weirder and weirder.
It's quite a tale. His zoo closed down in 1924, though. Neighbor complaints, apparently.
Can't imagine having a zoo with an alligator next door.
Okay, one more historical angle. The geology. It's not just pretty rock, it tells a story.
Oh, absolutely. The erosion at the falls is like peeling back layers of time. You're looking at rocks formed over 450 million years ago. Ordovician period.
This whole area was under a shallow sea. Exactly. You can see the layers pretty clearly. Blytheville limestone on top, then Glenwood shale, and then the St. Peter sandstone underneath.
And that sandstone is special.
Yeah, the St. Peter sandstone is known for being incredibly pure. Geologically, quite significant. It's amazing to see that ancient history right there in a city park.
Mind-boggling time frame. Okay, so that's the deep history. Let's talk highlights. What draws those 850,000 people today? Obviously starting with the falls.
Still the main event.
Yeah.
That 53-foot drop is beautiful year-round, but winter,
Wow.
it freezes into this massive, dramatic ice sculpture.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. Incredible.
And geologically, it's linked to St. Anthony Falls further downriver. It's also changed shape over time due to erosion. Used to be wider, apparently.
Interesting. And beyond the falls, there are gardens.
Yes, 3 main ones.
Yeah.
The Pergola Garden, great for photos. The Song of Hiawatha Garden, which has a stone fountain and those Longfellow connections. And the Longfellow Gardens, which are on the old zoo site. Nice, peaceful spots.
And the creek itself, Minnehaha Creek, where does it come from?
It flows all the way from Lake Minnetonka, about 22 miles, winds through neighborhoods, then takes that plunge over the falls, and finally joins the Mississippi.
Can you, canoe on it?
Yeah, parts of it are popular for canoeing, offers really nice views, but the water level depends heavily on rainfall and how much water they let out of Lake Minnetonka.
Gotcha. And for dog owners, there's a dog park, right?
Yep, a really popular off-leash dog park. Lots of space, trails leading down to the river. It's a big draw.
Okay. And I saw something about disc golf in the park.
Over in the Bobon picnic area, there's a free 9-hole disc golf course. A bit unexpected, maybe, but fun.
Adds variety. What about events? Anything regular happening?
The big one is probably the Minnehaha Falls Art Fair, usually in July. Lots of local artists, music, food. Really lively.
Sounds great. And if you want to explore on wheels...
Wheel Fun Rentals has bikes. Good way to cover the trails and see more of the park.
And I think I've heard music there sometimes.
And movies. Yeah. The Minnehaha Bandstand often has free live music. And in the summer, they do outdoor movie nights. That's actually a tradition going back over 120 years.
Wow, over a century of movies in the park.
Pretty cool, right? Makes it a real community hub.
And for kids. Playgrounds, wading pool.
Yep, there's a wading pond near the falls, perfect for hot days. And an accessible playground over at Wabun Picnic Area, so all kids can play.
Nice. And of course, just plain old picnicking.
Always a classic. Lots of great spots throughout the park to just relax and have a bite to eat.
Lastly, sculptures. You mentioned the Little Crow mask, but there are others.
Yeah, there's the famous Hiawatha and Minnehaha statue, based on the poem, and one of Gunnar Winterberg, who was a Swedish poet with local ties. They add another layer of art and history.
So wrapping this deep dive up,
Yep.
It's really clear Minnehaha Park is so much more than just that one admittedly spectacular waterfall.
That's the big takeaway, isn't it? It's history, it's culture, it's nature, all wrapped up in one place. It offers such a rich mix of things to see and do.
Yeah. Thinking about all those layers, the Dakota history, the Victorian tourism boom, the preservation fights, the constant evolution, it's quite a story.
It really is. A living history.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners. Considering everything this park has been through, all the changes, what kind of stories do you think Minnehaha Falls will tell in the future?
That's a great question. Its legacy is still being written, isn't it? Maybe a visit there will give you some ideas.